Okay guys, here we are. We're going to begin to go meeting by meeting. So first meeting, as we know, is our introductory office meeting. So just as a refresher, the purpose of this meeting is to introduce yourself, your practice, your philosophy, and to find out the same things about their practice to build rapport, identify a basis for continuing discussions. Put quite frankly, the primary goal is to get the next appointment and to continue the conversation and to move the ball forward. Right guys, so we know that the whole purpose of meeting one is to build a little credibility. We're really there to interview that CPA with the end goal of getting them to our office for an office visit. So what I do want to start with, I've had the opportunity to go out and cover some advisors that I've trained and even some of my own partners when they've gone into CPA offices. And I always like to start with a little bit of a story. And this is a true story that I actually experienced when going to a CPA's office. But before I go there, here's what I'm driving at. CPAs are constantly pursued. Business people are going to CPA's offices all the time. You have to stand out. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to walk in there and be like everybody else who walks in. I also want to talk to you a little bit about how you carry yourself and your dress, etc. So contrary to popular belief, in our industry sometimes financial advisors believe having the Rolex watch, the Armani suit, and driving up in the Ferrari is impressive. Think about who a CPA is. A CPA is very conservative. They're very family-oriented generally. So they're really interested in somebody showing up to their office, a pair of khaki pants and a golf shirt, or the way I'm dressed today, a button-up shirt with a sport jacket and a pair of slacks is absolutely fine. They'd be more impressed if you came with a Camry than they would with a Ferrari. They're looking for someone who's reliable, who's a family person, that is going to take good care of their clients. So leave the flash at home, and you'd be shocked. I see advisors who are in in first CPA meetings who are doing everything in their power to show how successful they are and how much money they make, and it's really not what a CPA wants. Remember what we talked about earlier. These folks are making $80,000 to $120,000 a year on average. The Ferrari is not what they want to hear, or what they want to see, I should say. So I want you to really think about that and focus on that a little bit. It's about building some type of credibility in this first meeting. So I want you to be a little bit different, and I don't want you to come in there really attempting to wow them. I want you to be real, and I want you to be yourself, and have them walk away from this meeting genuinely liking you as a family-oriented person with good core values and integrity. That's what they're ultimately searching for, and that's what they want to do, what and who they want to do business with. Another point that I want to make is a lot of times advisors believe that by letting a CPA know that they have account minimums, that is something that is really going to impress that CPA. Here's what I want to share with you. I have CPAs that I do business with today that the sole reason they chose to do business with my firm is because we've shared with them that we don't have account minimums. Even if you have an account minimum, I would suggest that you let the CPA know that you will work with each and every client they refer. And here's what I say to every CPA, and you can see it up on the screen here. Really, really powerful. And it's a big mistake advisors make sharing they have $1 million minimum or a $500,000 minimum. Even if that's the case, again, I think that for working with CPAs, you should consider changing your philosophy. And I'll come back to that in a minute and tell you an easy way to do that without really changing your business model. But here's what I say to every single accountant that I ever meet with. Say something along these lines. Mr. CPA, I have 2 criteria for someone to become my client. The first criteria is that they need to treat myself and my staff with respect and dignity. That's criteria number 1. Criteria number 2 is they truly have to have a desire to improve their financial situation. Whether they have $10,000 to invest or $10 million to invest, if they want to improve their situation and they're nice to me and my staff, we're happy to help anybody. I work for you, Mr. or Mrs. CPA, so when you give me a referral, I don't really look at it that that client is my client, but I look that you've hired me to do a job for one of your clients. And at the end of the day, if the client was important enough for you to refer to me, regardless of their asset level, I'm happy to help in any way that I can. So I want you to just sit back and reflect on what I just said for a minute. What does that tell the CPA? It tells them that you care about your clients. It tells them that you get what's on their mind. You have to remember, guys, a CPA's clientele is different than mine and yours. Many CPA's biggest clients are real estate investors. I know of accountants that might have 20 businesses that are all 20 commercial properties that their client owns. Well, those are 20 separate businesses. That client might not have any investable liquid assets for us to manage, but might have a net worth of 20 or 30 or $50 million. Might be a really important client for the CPA, but not such a great client today for you and I. So at the end of the day, keep that in mind. You work for the accounting firm, and your job is to make them look good. It goes back to those common CPA concerns as well. One of the things that I get out on the table many times in my first meeting or two with the CPA is this simple piece of information. I let the CPA know, although this should be taken for granted and no professional should do this, I let them know that if I'm ever in a position with a client that they refer or a mutual client of ours where I disagree with advice that that CPA might have given or aren't sure if it's true, I would never, ever disagree in front of the client. I might say, I need to speak with Joe CPA about this to make sure we're on the same page, but I would never say something like your CPA is wrong or he or she gave you bad advice. Now I know that's common sense, guys, but it's a concern that CPAs have, so it's another thing that we can alleviate throughout our sales process. And sometimes these simple little things make all of the difference, because what it's doing is it's really allowing that accountant to realize that you get it and that you understand what their perspective is and what their concerns are. So back to our first meeting. I sometimes, as you can see, go off on some tangents and give you some little tidbits of information, but these little tidbits, to me, are the difference between being successful and not being successful. Remember, it's not one thing, it's all of these little things together that if you can integrate into your sales approach that are going to really help you be impactful in courting these CPA firms that are out there. So I talked about when we approach the first meeting with the CPA firm. So I talked a little bit about dress and appearance and the idea to not be there telling them how great you are, but to be likable. I also want you to be a little bit different. And again, as you know, I sometimes like to tell stories a little bit to help keep things in your minds and help things to resonate with you. So I'm going to tell you a story. I went to go meet a CPA at his office, and he had just bought a small office condominium. And I came to go visit him, and I was sitting in his lobby waiting for him to come out and greet me. And I looked out the window, and what I saw out the window was one little clump of bamboo. I was looking at the window at the bamboo, and one of my hobbies, by the way, is landscaping. I don't have many hobbies other than my 4 boys and their sports and activities, and outside of that, I spend some time with my wife and I go to work. But landscaping and gardening is one of my hobbies, so I happen to know a lot about it. So I look at the receptionist, who's a young lady who's sitting behind the reception desk, and I ask her this question. I go, "Is that bamboo outside the window?" And she looked at me kind of like I was a little crazy and said, "Nah, I'm not sure. I think so." And I looked back at her and I said, "I think it's bamboo." And then I said, "Do you know anything about bamboo?" And again, she kind of looked at me like I was a little crazy. And I said, "Well, here's what I can tell you about bamboo. Bamboo will take over anything. Do you know how much it spreads?" I said, "I once heard a story of bamboo that it actually grew through the bottom of a gunite pool." She continued to look at me like I'm crazy. I said, "I'm just telling you, I know you just bought this office condo. If I were you, I would have somebody remove that bamboo. It's going to take over the whole property." She continued to look at me like I'm crazy. As the CPA was walking out, I was checking out their crown molding. I was looking around at their ceiling line, and they had some nice crown molding, and I said to the receptionist, I said, "Is that cherry or is that mahogany?" Again, she looked at me like I was crazy. I said, "I think it's mahogany. It doesn't look as grainy as cherry." She just, at this point, thought I was really weird and continued to smile. So to make a long story short, I went in, I had the meeting with the CPA, it went pretty well. On the way out, I said goodbye to the receptionist, and I said, I'm telling you, keep your eye on that bamboo. She kind of giggled, and I left. Well, the next day, my assistant called the office, CPA's office, to schedule our next meeting, right, for the office visit. She called the office, and my assistant said, hi, I'm calling from John Cutton's office. And the receptionist answered the phone, and she said, you meet Bamboo Boy? So why do I share that story with you? While I might be a little crazy, I certainly stood out enough to that receptionist to be called Bamboo Boy. Hey guys, the gatekeeper to the CPA schedule, it's that receptionist. 9 times out of 10, that's who manages the calendar. And if our ultimate goal is to get that next meeting and to ultimately meet with that CPA weekly or bi-weekly, guess what? That person sitting at the front desk needs to become your friend. When we talk about being a good wholesaler and the donuts and the gifts and the gift baskets and the tickets to ball games and all those things, that's why we do this. We do this so that we become part of the culture of the office and we wow them like a good wholesaler and they want to meet with us. So I tell that bamboo story, I hopefully got a little bit of a laugh out of you. It's hard to tell that through the video camera, but I think you're laughing. I hope hoping you're laughing. But I also tell you that story because I want it to resonate. I want you to understand you need to be a little different. I started to say earlier, I'll walk into first meetings with an advisor who's meeting a CPA or even a prospective client, and it's like this. Hi, Mr. Smith. Nice to meet you. Very glad we could meet today. And then it's right to business. One of the things anybody that knows me well will tell you, I find something in common with everyone I meet. And the reason I do that is I ask a lot of questions. So as you're walking into that CPA's office for the first time, you have to look around and see pictures and awards and things along those lines. Those are all signs. So if I see a picture of 3 children or 3 kids, I'm going to say, are those your children or grandchildren? Or are those your children or grandchildren? When they say, oh, they're my children, wow, how old are they? Wow, if you don't mind me asking, what town are you in? Oh my goodness, I know so-and-so from that town. Do you know them? Before you know it, guys, that could be a 15-minute conversation. Do your children play any sports? Really, they're lacrosse players. I'm a big lacrosse family. My kids play here or there, or baseball. If you happen to see a picture of Derek Jeter, I'm a New York guy, sorry for any of the Red Sox fans out there. Are you a baseball fan? Do you like the Yankees? Conversation about the New York Yankees. It could be about the cold weather, the warm weather, your most recent vacation, whatever it may be. Guys, that first meeting, and again, you won't find this in the book or the materials that you have in front of you. It's about becoming likable. People like to talk about themselves, so ask a lot of open, probe questions and really get to know them. I'd like you to spend at least 15 to 20 minutes making small talk. That is easier said than done, but if you're able to do that, trust me when I say, your likelihood of them coming to your office visit is much, much higher. Don't come in, be like everybody else, shake the hand, take out the glossy brochure, tell them how great you are in your Armani suit. Be likable, find commonality, build rapport, ask questions, act interested, 2 ears, right? I always love to say it, guys. My mom used to say it to me. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should spend 70% of your time listening and only 30% of your time talking. The first meeting, it's probably more like 80-20. This is for you to interview the CPA, and the entire goal is to get that second meeting. So I want you to learn about them. I want you to find commonality. I want you to learn about their business, and then ultimately I want you to get that next meeting. So with that, as you can see on your screen, some of the pieces that I want you to ultimately cover. So when you think about what I'd like you to do in that first meeting, after you've made all of that small talk, and after you've actually become likable and built some rapport, I want you to really kick the meeting off. And what I generally like to do is I'll say something like this. It's been really nice getting to know you a little bit and finding some things in common. Since I had reached out to you and set this meeting up, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a couple of quick minutes to tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about my practice. But most importantly, what I want to spend most of our time is learning more about you and your practice to see if in fact you could be a good fit in helping some of my clients with their tax matters. Would that be okay if I told you a little bit about myself? Freeze. Once you freeze there, CPA is going to say, that sounds great. You're in control of the direction of the meeting. This is the easiest meeting to do. You're then going to succinctly tell them a little bit about you and your business. As you can see on the screen, here are some of the key things that I want you to talk about your business. So as you're describing your business, obviously, you want to remember to accentuate the positives. You want to talk about things like your investment philosophy, potentially your assets under management, the numbers of clients that you service, fee-based relationship. It doesn't have to be 100%, but CPAs prefer that we work on a fee basis. Your comprehensive planning approach, it's all about the process. Process, process, process. They love system and structure and process. You want to talk a little bit about client retention and your client satisfaction. It's telling them that you do a good job and your clients like you. And then any professional achievements, your designations, if you're a CFP or a CRPC or an MBA or whatever it may be, you want them to know about that. Now what I want you to also understand, guys, is I started to do this, and sometimes advisors are concerned about this. I want to remind you, when I first started to work with my first accounting firm, which was Ken Serini at Serini & Associates, it was me, one staff person, and I worked out of my basement. So you don't need to be that impressive. I was not that impressive at that point and had not had a big firm behind me, etc. So whether you're a solo practitioner or whether you're a big ensemble practice with 25 advisors in it, this will work either way. Accentuate the positives. They don't know what you're supposed to say. So they don't know how many clients you're supposed to have, what your assets under management are. They don't know if at your firm you're a vice president. Vice president sounds pretty impressive to me, right? Senior vice president sounds pretty impressive to me. Managing director, financial advisor, private wealth advisor. They don't understand these titles. All of our firms have different titles, and nobody understands what they mean in the CPA profession. So trust me, they'll be impressed. So I'm going to demonstrate what I would generally say in an opening segment of a meeting like this. So after we've made our small talk, here's what I'm going to say. I wanted to really thank you for your time today, Ken. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate you taking the time to get to know me a little bit. I really enjoyed our conversation. Since I had reached out to you and suggested this meeting, I thought it would be appropriate for me to take a couple of minutes to just tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about my firm, and then what I'd really like to do today is spend the majority of our time where I can learn a little bit more about you and your firm and how you work with clients to see if potentially you could be a good fit for some of my other clients. Does that sound reasonable? Well, great. So the name of my firm is Cutton Metis Wealth Management. We are a fee-based comprehensive financial planning firm located here on Long Island. And really what we do is we help the mass affluent, what I describe as the mass affluent, which are clients who have anywhere from $100 to a few $1 million of investable assets, really make better decisions about their comprehensive financial planning, their goals and their objectives. One of the things that we're really proud of as a firm is the last number of years we've been recognized by Barron's, and we've been recognized as one of Barron's top 100 independent financial planning practices. So that's based on a lot of different variables. Some of it's our assets under management and the number of families that we help. But what's most important to me about that is it's based on things like our client satisfaction surveys and scores. It's based on client retention, being in a strong compliance situation, meaning we've never had any issues or been in trouble for anything in the industry. So to me, I'm really proud to have made that list because it's based on many factors, most of which really being taking really good care of our clients and really looking after their best interest and taking kind of a fiduciary role within their world. So with that, what we're really trying to do as a firm is ensure that we align ourselves with capable and competent professionals like yourself in the CPA industry, where our clients, when our clients do have some tax-related issues, questions or concerns, that we have a resource that we can trust. And ultimately our hope is that we can find that right firm who most importantly can take good care of our clients, but at the same time might be interested in building some type of mutually beneficial relationship with a firm like mine. So with that, I wanted to see if you had any questions about me or my background, but what I really wanted to do is learn a little bit more about you and your firm. So let's stop for a minute. And I'm going to put up on the screen the list of the attributes or the talking points that I wanted to hit. And I want you to tell me if I hit most or all of them in my little infomercial there about my firm. Investment philosophy, assets under management, clients that we serve, fee-based relationship, comprehensive planning approach, retention, satisfaction, professional achievements. So I think I hit about 80% of the things on that list, and that's what I want you to do. You don't have to hit them all, but here's my question for you. If I asked you to do your elevator speech the way I just did, and I don't want you to script that. That's one that I didn't script because it has to be very much from your heart and what rolls off of your tongue, not off of my tongue. But here's what I do want you to understand. Those are the key attributes that I want you to point out because those are the attributes that will ultimately resonate with that account. And that's what they want to hear about, right? Satisfaction and retention and process and systems and structure, etc. They don't want to hear that you manage $1.5 billion for only 50 clients and you're the #1 producer in your organization. That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear the attributes that you see up there in your screen. So again, can you do that today? If I asked you to do it right now in front of a camera, could you deliver it as eloquently as I think I was able to? Understand this. That's the first time that CPA is going to actually make a decision about you. Right? Outside of the first decision they made when you walked into the office and shook their hand, right? Based on how firm your handshake was and whether or not you made eye contact and how your small talk went. From a business perspective, that's the first thing that you said. They're going to pay a lot more attention, not to your words, but how you deliver it. Are you delivering it arrogantly, or are you just confident? Or are you not confident, right? So that's something you want to practice, guys. I've been in the field with advisors who botch it, who when they get in front of the CPA, they don't know what they say, and they just say, "Hi, I'm John, I've been in the business 20 years, I'm really good at what I do, and I'm looking forward to working with all of your clients." Okay? Doesn't work that way. Have a plan to tack and deliver it eloquently. Make sure that you spend some of your own time practicing that in front of a mirror, in front of a camera, to your spouse, to your colleague, etc. We're now in small talk. Now, guys, it's open probe time. Okay? This, as I've said a bunch of times, is a really easy meeting. So we just told them about our practice. What do we want to hear about now? We want to hear about theirs. So I told them about mine, asked if there were any questions. Let's assume there weren't. My next question is, well, if you wouldn't mind, take a minute and tell me a little bit about you and your practice. Now, guys, they're not prepared. They're not taking our training course, so they're not going to know exactly what they should be telling you. So take a look at your screen. Here are some questions that you could ask to jog their memory and to really get to the point where you are in a position that you're asking the correct open probe questions. And these are just some ideas, okay? You can add your own. So here are some ideas of open probes that you can ask. How did you get started as a CPA tax professional? That's a really good one, guys. Here's what I like about that one. It usually follows about a 10-minute speech. Here's what the CPA will then tell you. Well, I actually started with one of the big 6, which then became one of the big 4, and then I left and started my own business. And when I started my own business, all of my clients followed me because I do such a great job and they love me. Right? So, guys, people's favorite subject is to talk about who? Themselves. When you ask open questions and open probes, they're going to tell you. Let them go on and on, 70% of the time listening. So, other things we can say, really, tell me more. How did that happen? How long were you there? You guys get the idea. Second open probe question that you can ask as an example. How have you built your practice? Here's another one. Tell me about your practice. How about what differentiates your practice from others? Can you tell me about your client service system? Does your firm have any specialty services? Does your firm have any special qualifications? Will my clients work directly with you or someone else on your team? So hopefully, guys, you can see we're there to interview. you can probably take it from there. We're going to continue to have that dialogue and continue to ask those open probe questions, and the meeting will just flow. As I said in the opening remarks, or my opening remarks about the 4-step sales process, remember, what you're hearing from me is just what you need to say. Don't forget that 70% of the conversation is going to be led from somebody else. That's what makes this process and system as simple as it is. Also consider talking the industry in industry lingo. So what do I mean when I say that? On the screen you can see some industry lingo, right? What that will do is help you to build some credibility. It'll actually help the CPA understand that you actually understand their business. Excuse me. So examples would be, how many professionals do you have in your office? And how many non-professionals? In the CPA world, guys, professionals means CPAs. Non-professionals means non-CPAs. Now, the average advisor might not know that, but a CPA would understand you know their business if you did. Another question could ask is, how many 1040s and small business returns does your firm do? Does your firm do attestation work? Attestation work, guys, is a fancy word for audit work. When you ask that question, again, they'll know that you understand their lingo a little bit. Is your firm peer reviewed? Which is an industry term. When you do audit work, you're required to have a peer review system where other professionals actually look at your systems and process, etc. So use industry lingo, be a student of the business. It will help in your overall dialogue. Now, as we continue on here, what you can see on your screen is a script that I call the fiduciary responsibility script. And what I'm going to do, although you see it on your screen, and I have a script for it, I'd like to deliver it to you the way that I deliver it non-scripted, because rather than read it, I want you to hear how I say it. So I also want you to understand, sometimes in the first meeting, once they've told you a little bit about their practice, one of the things that CPAs, and I would tell you probably at least a third of the time in your first meeting with a CPA, he or she will tell you how bad our profession is, meaning our financial planning profession. They'll tell you a story about how one of their clients were taken advantage of by a financial advisor, or how they couldn't get cost basis information, or someone who was sold a product for the wrong reason. They love to tell you those stories. And I want you to think about this for a minute, because it's really important that you understand this and you digest this, okay? It's at the core of where we're trying to go to get the CPA to see things in a different light. If you remember earlier, I had mentioned the fact that many CPAs don't believe getting involved in financial planning is the right thing for them to do. They don't think they can maintain their objectivity if they are involved and financially rewarded for being involved in the financial planning world the way we do and the way that we are. So what we're really trying to do, and that's what this script is designed to do, is to call the CPA out in a really tactful, nice way and basically say this. I want you to really focus on this, guys, because from my perspective, if you can deliver this unbelievably well and you conceptually get why we're saying it and what we're trying to convey, and you believe it in your gut, if you do this really well, it will take CPAs from arms crossed saying, not in a million years, John, I would never get involved in financial planning, to them kind of scratching their head and going, I never thought about it that way. So here's what we're telling them. CPAs love to tell us we're step above used car salespeople. We're so bad at what we do. We don't take good care of our clients. We charge too much. We charge too much in commissions. We churn accounts. All of these things. So here's my question. What's the CPA doing about it? I'm going to say it again. What is the CPA doing about it? Most of the time, nothing. They choose to stay uninvolved. They choose to bury their head in the sand. And quite frankly, if they are the trusted, knowledgeable advisor that they profess to be and the fiduciary for their clients, well, doing nothing about it isn't helping matters, right? It's pretending it's not there. And that's not what a professional does who cares about their client. Now, can we say it that way to the CPA without being kicked out of their office? No. So we have to get that point across in a way that they'll be able to hear what we're saying. It's communication skills and a communication model, right? That's what my script is designed to do. Sometimes, guys, it's appropriate in the first meeting. I said earlier, you have to use your own judgment as to when to put these things in. Sometimes it's the first meeting, sometimes it's the second meeting, sometimes it might be the third or fourth. But many times, and your cue is, if they talk negatively about our industry and you see some type of resentment or receptivity, there could be an opportunity to sneak this script in. So here's what I'm going to say. You can see the script up there, and what I'd like you to be able to do is listen to my words. I'm not going to follow the script exactly, but I want you to hear how I deliver it. So I'm going to say something along these lines. You know, Ken, earlier, one of the things that you had mentioned to me is that you do about 400 or 500 tax returns each and every year. So I'm not sure if you ever thought about it this way or not, but my best guess would be those 400 or 500 clients that you do the tax work for, I bet you there's 300 or 400 different financial people who touch their lives every year. Might be a financial advisor, an insurance agent, a stockbroker, a registered rep, but there's probably 300 or 400 different financial professionals that are working with your 400 or 500 clients. Not sure if you've ever thought about it this way, but I would venture to guess that a third of those professionals working with your clients are really good at what they do. They're probably competent, they're probably experienced, they probably do an unbelievably good job for your clients, and quite frankly, your clients are blessed to have them and truly on track for their goals because of the hard work and professionalism that those advisors bring to the table. I'd also say there's probably another third of your clients' advisors and financial professionals that are okay at what they do. They've got some experience, they generally do the right thing, they service the clients to the degree they need to, and quite frankly, they're probably not getting the best possible advice, but no one's really getting hurt. They're getting decent advice. It could be better, but it's not going to ruin their financial situation. My concern, Ken, is that last third. And you mentioned earlier, you had talked a little bit about some of the experiences you've seen with your own clients. You had mentioned your older client whose account was being excessively traded and there were a lot of fees that came into account. That's the third that I'm concerned about. There's a third of advisors out there, Ken, quite frankly, that is what gives my industry a bad name. And some of those advisors with 400 or 500 clients have to be working with your clients. One of the things, as you told me about your practice today and how much you care about your clients and all the relationships, that really resonated with me is how much you care in these deep relationships that you have. I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way or not. But, every tax season, your clients come into the office and they give you all their tax information. They give you their interest statements, their dividend statements, their capital gains, and all of their financial information. They bring it in a big shoebox, right, and they give it to you. And then you go back and you do what you do. You put together their tax return, you do the best job that you can, and then you hand them the tax return at the end of tax season and you tell them they owe some money or they're getting some money back. And I'm not sure if you ever thought about it this way, but your clients trust you so much. Let's make no bones about it. CPAs are by far the most trusted and knowledgeable advisor in the industry. That's what the consumer believes, and I don't disagree with that. And I think you would probably agree as well. Your clients trust you so much that when you come back and you deliver that tax return after having your hands on all their financial information, and you don't make a comment whether their financial information and their investments were good, bad, or indifferent, your lack of comment to many clients, they believe, is confirmation that what they're doing is okay. Now, why do I say that? Because they know how much you care about them, and if you, who are their knowledgeable, trusted advisor, saw their information and didn't comment, everything must be okay because you care so much about them and they know it, that you would point out if there was an issue. Now, is that really your responsibility, Ken? Probably not. You're not their financial advisor, but your clients might think it's something that you're doing. So one of the things that I believe could make a lot of sense, and wanted to get your feedback on it, is not that you need to become a financial advisor, but why not go out and interview as many financial planning firms as you'd like to find a firm or two that has the experience, has the integrity, has the track record of success and always does what's in the client's best interest. And do what you can to have all of your clients that trust you so much do a review or an audit of their financial planning situation with the advisor that you've done your due diligence on to help ensure that they're not falling into the wrong advisor's hands out there that we both know don't do the right thing for your clients. Have you ever thought about that? And then guys, you just shut up. So I want you to reflect on that for a minute. You can see the script up on your screen. If you can deliver that eloquently, guys, it will change the direction of meetings. It is at the core, let me say it again, it is at the core of what you need to get across to the CPA. Because I have news for you, I believe that to be 100% accurate. If you believe that to be 100% accurate and you have conviction, guess what? So will the CPA. And as soon as they connect that you are there to help and you are there to ultimately get their clients the right advice and protect them from the unscrupulous advisors out there, they will be on board. They will do everything in their power to introduce you to their clients. You have to get that across to them. That's your job. Sometimes it's in this first meeting. Sometimes they're not ready for it for the second to third. But what I think we've done really cleverly, and it works all around the country, guys, is we've created a way to tell the CPA you're not doing your job without coming out and saying it in a really tactful manner. You don't have to do it exactly based on the script that you see on the screen. You have to make it your own words to get those concepts across to the CPA. But guys, I've got to tell you, I've seen it happen. It's a meeting changer. You can go from a CPA who has no interest in doing business with you to hearing that, to saying, man, I never thought about it that way. You are right on, and we've got to help our clients. I've seen it happen time and time again. If you believe that you, as an advisor, with the CPA together, working on the client's behalf, sitting at the same conference table, will do better work for your client, that will show through, and that will be why you're successful and why that CPA will ultimately follow you. So that, guys, is what I call fiduciary responsibility. That's one that I want you to own and be able to deliver unbelievably well, because it's something that should be said to each and every CPA. When the meeting starts to go well, I want to go through, usually this wouldn't happen in the first meeting, a lot of times it's in that second meeting, but because it could happen in the first meeting, I want to also walk you through, don't put the cart before the horse. So I'm going to put the script up on your screen again, and I'm going to read it to you. This is, again, a series of takeaways. And I mentioned earlier, I talked a little bit about, do you ask for all the business for the $5 million check when the $5 million prospect comes in, or do you ask them for a bit of business and to earn the rest? Very similar to the takeaway. And we do this, I want you to remember, these takeaways are really important, and I need you to understand why they're important. These takeaways are designed to build confidence. CPA thinks you and I step above a used car salesperson. Used car salespeople, when they make the sale, they're taught to say, press hard, 3 copies. That's what we're taught to say. The minute we act that way, that CPA relationship is absolutely doomed. So if we keep pushing the check back and saying things like my script, don't put the cart before the horse, we're going to be very successful. So here it is. Ken, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. Based on our conversation and what you shared with me, I think we can both see the potential in integrating financial planning services into your tax practice. However, I also think as business people we should take a step back for a moment and make sure that we're both comfortable and that we've done enough due diligence on each other's firms. I'd like to invite you back to my office and take you through our systems and structure again to ensure that my practice is something that you fully understand. Does that sound reasonable? So as you can see in that script, sometimes that's delivered in the first meeting. Obviously, in the first meeting you haven't gone through the office visit, so more often than not, we're having that conversation in the lunch meeting. But the reason I put it, you'll see it in both sections throughout the training, I put it in both sections because if the CPA happens to say to you in that first meeting, well, what's the next step? How do we move forward? I want to move forward. I want you to already know that sometimes it's appropriate for this to come through in meeting 1 as well. So guys, with that, I want to really summarize, and I think, like I had said, meeting 1 is by far the simplest meeting. We make a good impression, we make small talk, we build rapport and relationship. We're a little bit different than the average person who walks in. You don't have to be as crazy as me with the bamboo story, but we're coming across a little bit differently. We tell them about our business after we've made our small talk and build rapport and found some commonality. We succinctly tell them about our practice with those key areas that we discussed earlier. We ask the CPA to tell us about their practice. We open, probe, and get them to open up and tell them more than you probably want to know. And then at some point in that presentation, we're going to, if appropriate, have the fiduciary responsibility conversation. If they're already looking to move forward, we go through, put the cart before the horse, and then we transition to meeting 2. So if you look on your screen and we take a look at that transition script, in essence, at the end of that meeting, here's what we're saying. We're saying something along these lines. Ken, I really enjoyed meeting with you today. I thought our time together was very productive. I liked getting to know you and a little bit about your business. It seems to me that you've built a great business and you could be a good resource for some of my other clients as well. What I really would like to do is I'd like to invite you back to my office maybe next week, and I'd like you to see my operation and learn a little bit more about what we do at our firm. For taking the trip out, I'd love to take you out to lunch afterwards just for a quick bite and get some of your feedback and see if, in fact, you and I can be on to building a mutually beneficial relationship for the benefit of us as business owners and, more importantly, for our clients. Would you be open to coming to check out my operation? That's it, guys. Simple. That's your transition. And then what I would simply do is I'd ask you, as you can see on your screen, handwritten note. I wrote it for you guys. It's in your book. Typed email, and let the laws of reciprocity begin. What do I mean when I say that? The hope is to get them on that yes train and for them to reply back saying something like, it was great meeting you as well, etc. So guys, it's simple, it's straightforward. Do me a favor, don't change it. Don't make it more complicated. Follow the system. What we've done is we've become likable, and we've gotten the second meeting. With that, that ends what we do in our first meeting and the steps to take. It's the easiest meeting to do. You're all going to do great with it. And what I'd like to do is frame up our next, what we do in our second meeting, which is that office visit, followed by the lunch meeting, which is really where that credibility building begins. Thanks.